The sequel to the insanely underrated Deadly Premonition is landing on the Nintendo Switch in 2020. It picks up several years after the events of the first entry and introduces players to Elia Davis and Francis Morgan. These FBI agents are plunged into a mind-boggling adventure that is sure to share much in common with the original's wacky nature. It's a sort of detective RPG where you'll find yourself solving cases, battling the undead, leveling up and taking care of your character on a day-to-day basis. But the new aspect, which involves switching between the two playable characters, is sure to add an extra dynamic to the gameplay that was not present within the original. So if you're a fan or looking for something different, this is one to watch. Set in 1888, West of Dead transports players to a unique take on the Wild West in a twin-stick cover-based shooter that is bound to stay with you long after the credits have rolled. You jump into the boots of William Mason and descend into purgatory as you aim to fight your way through the hordes of enemies in style, while utilising a diverse set of weaponry and abilities. Each environment is procedurally generated, which will immensely add to the replay value of the experience and essentially offer a never-ending challenge. West of Dead looks like it will deliver on its promise and offer a frantic, high-energy shooter that is sure to satisfy fans of the genre, as well as players looking for something both challenging and rewarding. Following on from the previous entry in the series, Pirate Warriors 4 is essentially more of the same, but with an added emphasis upon the diversity now present within its battling system. New movesets, abilities and attacks have been added into the mix to make this one of the most memorable outings in the franchise to date. With over 40 playable characters to use within the game, there is a ton to try out, and with each offering their own movesets and abilities, there is bound to be one that suits each player's specific style of play. A new concept introduced with this fourth installment is the inclusion of gigantic characters, which will deal out a significant amount of damage when compared to others. Although at this point it is not confirmed if they are playable or not, it seems like it's going to be a cool inclusion that is bound to mix up the gameplay a bit. All in all, Pirate Warriors 4 looks like it will satisfy both fans and newcomers alike, so this is definitely one to watch. Persona 5 Scramble mashes together the world of Persona with the hack-and-slash action of the Dynasty Warrior series in an all-new role-playing adventure. The game takes place 6 months after the events of the main entry, and once again follows Joker and the rest of the Phantom Thieves of Hearts as they end up in a mysterious version of Tokyo which has been taken over by supernatural enemies. As we'd expect, the gameplay will take on a totally different flavour when compared to the main entry, and will instead offer a much more fast-paced experience based on chaining combos, but mixing it with the use of personas and abilities usually found in a turn-based RPG. This one is shaping up to be something truly special, and for Persona fans, a must-have. The sequel to the critically acclaimed return of the Doom franchise is finally hitting Nintendo Switch in 2020. Expect everything that made the original so great to return, as well as several new features such as new weapons, enemy types, abilities, and dynamic ways in which to take on the hordes of demons that the adventure will throw at you. As the player, you'll be reprising the role of the Doomslayer and are sent to Earth to combat a demonic invasion, so expect to be raising complete hell in typical Doom fashion, along with discovering more about the origins of the Doomslayer and the reasons why his fight is eternal. If you were a fan of the original, there is sure to be more than enough here to warrant a purchase, and for those who may have missed it, Doom Eternal presents the perfect jumping on point. No More Heroes 3 is the fourth installment in the No More Heroes franchise. It follows Travis Touchdown as he is plunged into another adventure that requires him to once again rise in the hero rankings of the world. Taking place 9 years after the events of the previous entry in the series, a lot has changed in the world, with a new threat rising in the form of a company known as Utopina. It is led by a man known as Damon, who has managed to merge himself with alien DNA through the use of technology that was lost in a crash. By doing so, he is imbued with new powers and also allies that form the top tiers of the hero ranks. These serve as the game's antagonists and present themselves in an almost Avengers style fashion. If you're a fan of the series or looking for something new to get into, No More Heroes 3 is bound to have it all. The Sega Saturn classic Panzer Dragoon is making a return after nearly 3 decades with a full-blown remake of the original venture that was released in 1995. If you've never had the pleasure of experiencing Panzer Dragoon, this represents the perfect opportunity to find out what all the fuss was about. It's essentially an on-rail shooter that also allows for limited movement throughout each battle space. You take control of a dragon and are equipped with a range of weapons and abilities in which to fulfill your goal. If you missed this one back in the day, the re-release for the Nintendo Switch is definitely something to keep an eye on. A remake of the Nintendo Wii classic is finding a new home on the Switch. Xenoblade Chronicles is quite possibly one of the finest action RPGs of all time, and with its sequel already available on the Switch, it makes sense to bring over the game that started it all. Players can expect to see upgraded visuals as well as new content, and of course a new way in which to experience this classic that defined RPGs on the Wii. You'll be taking up the role of Shulk, a young man who is plunged into an adventure that spans 2 great kingdoms. With an incredible story, as well as a deep and well thought out battling system, this action RPG is sure to satisfy fans of the genre, as well as newcomers alike. So if action RPGs are your thing, Xenoblade Chronicles is something that should not be missed. The Outer Worlds shares much in common with the likes of Fallout and presents several open-world environments in the form of a diverse set of planets that can be visited throughout the adventure. Tying all this together is a well-thought-out combat system that utilizes a whole range of different weapons, which helps even the odds against enemies. But the true star of the show is the branching dialogue system, which allows you to truly play the game in the way you desire. May that be a complete badass or a level-headed hero, the option is there and does nothing but further enhance the replayability of the experience. If you haven't played this one on the other consoles yet, the Switch version will provide the perfect opportunity to do so. Mega Man Zero Legacy is a compilation of the various classic Mega Man Zero games that have released over the years. Players can expect a whole ton of sweet platforming action that has helped define the genre all in one great valued package. There are a total of 6 games included, as well as extra features such as a casual scenario mode and a save assist feature that is bound to make it all the more easier in which to overcome some of the more challenging aspects of the experience. On top of all this, a new leaderboard centric mode has been added known as Chaser, which adds a real competitive edge to the overall game and allows you to test your skills with those of the world. If you're into platformers, this is the one to watch. One of Nintendo's flagship series finally lands on the Nintendo Switch in 2020. Animal Crossing New Horizons will pivot from the various entries in the past and instead offer players the chance to build an island from scratch as opposed to just becoming a mayor. As you would expect, a whole host of minigames and activities will be included, such as fishing, decorating and gardening, in which you'll get stuck into, as well as a cast of lovable NPCs to meet and befriend in true Animal Crossing style. This is the first iteration of the series to see a release on the Switch, so it's going to be interesting to see everything the new hardware can offer the experience in the way of new aspects and features that might not have been possible on the 3DS. Back when the 3DS was king, Square Enix released a title that managed to garner quite the fanbase and loyal following, which was known as Bravely Default. After a sequel dropped in 2016, the franchise went quiet and many had thought that Square Enix had simply just moved on. As it turns out though, this wasn't the case, as Bravely Default 2 was revealed at this year's Game Awards. It will once again be exclusive to Nintendo hardware and introduce players to a new story, world and 4 characters in which to follow on the adventure. If the past entries in the franchise are anything to go by, Bravely Default 2 is definitely one to keep an eye on, especially for RPG fans, as it harkens back to the golden years of the genre with its simplified presentation and emphasis upon battle systems and story.